Today at the table, I'm delighted to welcome Amy O'Sullivan, founder of AOS Consulting and the 2025 National President of Network Ireland. Amy is a marketing and social media expert who helps brands reach their next level of business potential. Through her creative agency, she brings years of experience working across Irish and international brands with a strong focus on digital strategy, engagement, and results. And in her role as National President of Ireland, Ireland's largest organisation supporting women in business, Amy championed her 2025 theme, Breaking Barriers, highlighting the challenges faced by women in business. She's a graduate of DCU with a BA in Economics, Politics and Law, and one of her big highlights through her presidency of Network Ireland was hosting Network Ireland's first ever All-Ireland International Women's Day event at Croke Park, bringing together 400 women from across the island of Ireland. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, Martina. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh no, I'm delighted. I think this is a nice way to close out your time with your presidency with Network Ireland, and I know you had a big weekend this past weekend, so we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and for our viewers, you're in Kilkenny, right?
Yeah, in Kilkenny, born and raised, and living
Right.
here now. So love Kilkenny. It's my home county, and live in the countryside.
Oh yeah, and it is, it is a beautiful city. We just won't talk about the rivalry between Clare and Kilkenny and the hurling.
We won't mention it.
We won't mention it. We won't mention it. All right, Amy, we're going to get going. We've lots to talk about. In my intro, I mentioned you graduated from DCU with a BA in Economics, Politics and Law, but you ended up in a very different career.
Yeah, so I suppose my pathway wasn't linear. Coming out of school, I suppose I was not really 100% sure in terms of what I wanted to do. I had an idea that I would go into law. My mother was a solicitor, and I always thought I would follow in her footsteps, and that was kind of always the plan. And I got to university, and I suppose I loved it, and I got involved in so many different things that were going on in the campus. Like DCU is an incredible university in that regard. So I was involved in the radio, I was writing in the college magazine, and I kind of was gradually getting exposed more to the kind of media industry, and that as a potential maybe career option. And marketing wasn't even in my head at the time. Business and marketing, it wasn't something I even would have considered doing in college. It was always very much it was going to be law or politics, something along those lines. And yeah, I suppose some of the exams maybe didn't go my way, and it wasn't really, I suppose I was starting to realize, right, is law what I want to do? And my mom would have always had, very, I suppose very frank discussions with me about it, and, that it is a challenging career, especially for women going into it as well. So I suppose I was maybe starting to look elsewhere around, maybe I'm not going to go down and pursue that career and have a look at what else I could do. So while I was in college, I actually did a TV presenting production and presenting production and directing course, and I did that at the weekends. And I just loved TV and media and the production side of it. And social media wasn't really a thing at the time, so again, marketing wasn't hugely on my radar. So I was kind of looking to go down more that kind of traditional media route. And when I left college, I really aim to pursue it, and it's a tough industry to kind of crack into. But I ended up working in lots of different roles. Like I was in lots of different sales roles, ended up kind of moving into marketing through that. And all of a sudden I kind of found a space where I was like, yeah, actually, I think this is maybe what I meant to do. I just found I had such a grow for it, such a love for it, and started to explore it a little bit more. And I was coming out of college in 2013. So at the time it was really like Twitter and Facebook, there wasn't much else to it. But I really started to enjoy that. And funnily, one of my first jobs out of college was actually as a social media manager for a clothes boutique in Kilkenny. And again, didn't know what I was doing, was just figuring it out as I went along. But I felt I had a kind of a natural knack for it and started doing a bits in PR. So I was slowly kind of building up my CV. And again, social media manager, that kind of terms, or marketing manager, still wasn't kind of on my radar, or something I kind of thought could be a potential career. But it was over the following years, then it just kind of naturally happened and evolved.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And I think, kudos to you, Amy, for going, I suppose, with what you really wanted to do and what you were passionate about, and not, getting, I suppose, maybe pigeonholed in because you had done economics and law and politics. And actually, that's kind of what we see a lot here in the
Mhm.
US. People will have an undergrad in one thing and they go in a completely, different career direction.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I think now there's maybe more people are more minded to it. I think back when I was in school, like it was very much you to get certain points and you to be very clear in terms of what you wanted to do. Whereas I think now we're all maybe, slightly more open-minded in terms of you can go in to college, get a course, and, it can open so many doors. And I think, the people that you meet and along the way, like there's just so many different, I suppose, different signposts and things that will happen throughout the course of your life. So I think everyone, maybe we are more open minded to that now in general. But definitely when I was in school, there was pressure to pick a course and kind of know what you wanted to do. And I just think it's nearly impossible when you're 17 to kind of know exactly what you want to do when you grow up. I still think maybe I'll do something else in 10 years, like who knows? But you do find your thing eventually. And I think that's the important thing, is to try enough things and to maybe explore options and say yes, and don't be afraid to try something new, and you will eventually find your thing.
Amy, kudos to you for really following I suppose, your heart and what you were really passionate about, because you could have really I suppose, got pigeonholed in to maybe a career you weren't, that I well, maybe interested about or that passionate about, with law and economics.
Yeah, I think you do. You just need to, be open and willing to try something different. And it's about finding your passion. Like when I was in college, I suppose I grew up with two parents who were both self-employed. So always in the back of my mind, I always had an idea that I would go and work for myself. And that was, just something in the back of my mind, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to materialize. And I would always be up thinking and furiously trying to come up with business ideas. And I was always writing business plans and, from cafes, through to whether it was one stage like a bag line that I thought might work. And it was always coming up with things. And I went into the local enterprise offices and everything, like pitching to try and get money. And luckily I didn't get the money for my cafe because I don't know how that would have went. But I always had an idea I would work for myself. So even in college, I was open to trying lots of different things to try and find my thing. And, I eventually found it in marketing, and I just had a natural flair for it and really, really loved it. And I think it's the maybe storytelling in it and the people that you meet along the way. That's what I love about it. So I was lucky that I did find my thing. But I suppose for any younger women and, guys going to college, you don't need to have it all figured out.
Right, yeah. And I suppose too, Amy, there's a lot more conversation now around, setting up your own business and women in business. I mean, compared to, as you said, when you were, filling out that CEO form.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, again, no one would have talked about starting a business in school. Although we did do like in transition year, we had, it was kind of start your own mini company. And that was a project that you could do. And I love that as well. And, so you were slightly exposed to it, but again, you wouldn't really think of it beyond, okay, let's put this money into it and try see how much we can make over the couple of weeks selling, whatever you come up with at the school breaks. So it wasn't maybe a huge focus, but I do think now, like there's so like young people, if you ask any 10-year-old now what they want to be when they grow up. They'll probably say a YouTuber or a content creator, so I think they're much more exposed to the options and that you don't have to go into the traditional job roles.
Um, so then when did you kind of think about, well, do you know what, I'm going to really give this a go and I'm going to set up, AOS Consulting. So take us through, the beginning of AOS.
Yeah, so I'd been working as a digital marketing executive in a food company, and I loved it. Absolutely loved every second of that, and it just really exposed me to the industry, and I got the in-house experience that I needed. And I suppose when I was working in that company, I was meeting lots of other kind of small and medium-sized business owners in the food industry, and they'd all keep saying the same thing: God, I wish I had someone like you in my business. So I could see a gap where there wasn't, for smaller businesses where they couldn't maybe afford to bring on someone full time. So I definitely could see a gap where I could potentially freelance and help more businesses than just one. But that again wasn't really a thing at the time. So when I set up my business, it was AOS Consulting, and the idea was that I would literally go in and just kind of consult. And I started kind of mainly with restaurants and going in and helping them maybe develop a marketing strategy. And I would be going through everything they'd need to do, and then they turn around and say, is there any way you could help us like with this? Like, we've no one in house to do it. I don't have the time. So I could see where businesses didn't have the time. So
Mhm.
I started bringing on some clients like on a retainer basis, whether it was doing like website work or social media or email marketing. And then that just really started to evolve quite naturally. But COVID was kind of very much the catalyst because, in Ireland, we had so many traditional businesses, like just thinking of a few even in Kilkenny, traditional businesses who maybe been in existence 50 plus years, who had such a reputation built up. They had their customers, but the minute their doors closed, they didn't have any way of connecting with their customers and communicating with them because they'd never invested in their online business because they just didn't need to. They didn't have an online strategy. So there was businesses all over the country crying out who didn't have that online presence. So I started to offer free kind of one-to-one consultations for anyone who was thinking of taking their business online and maybe how they could do that. And I was offering them purely for free. And I was inundated and I was doing calls around the clock, but it kept me busy and I loved it because I wasn't, we were in lockdown and there
Yeah.
wasn't a huge amount else to do. So I was working around the clock in lockdown. And the agency, I suppose, demand for services was very much there. So it kind of has naturally evolved then into this kind of 360 marketing agency.
So there was probably a silver lining out of COVID for you, Amy. Um, and then talk to us. We hear people talk about, oh, I don't have a budget. I don't have a budget for marketing, and so I mean, talk maybe a little bit if you are, starting out. If you are, start an entrepreneur starting out, and of course now we see, the importance of Instagram and TikTok, and so
Yeah.
how would you advise somebody to approach it if they don't have a huge budget?
Yeah, like if you don't have a huge budget, I suppose firstly, all the social media platforms are free. And there is a lot you can do, but it
Mm.
does take time and time is money as well. And you really do have to make that investment into it because it doesn't just happen overnight. But I think if you're willing to just put time aside, whether it be weekly, to just sit down and get that content created and invest into it, you just have to if you're willing to put time into it, that can take you a long way. You don't need to necessarily be spending money on ads initially or, even getting someone in. But I suppose I would also then the other side of it is if it's not your thing and you're not maybe good at creating content, like you want to make sure that the content you're creating is reflective of your brand and that it's on brand. So like having good quality imagery and video is really important now. But we're seeing also that people don't necessarily want that overly polished, overly curated content anymore either. So the really high-end professional videos maybe don't resonate as much as maybe a video of your team in store that can easily be taken on an iPhone. Like we do a lot of content creation for clients on iPhones, but equally we do have the camera and high quality imagery then as well. So I think it's about striking a balance. But I think time is the biggest investment you need to make into it, because consistency is key in terms of the volume of content that you're putting out. And it doesn't need to be every day. It could just be maybe 2 or 3 posts per week, but you're consistent in that. And it's just building up that, building up that presence online is really, really important. And clarity in your messaging is really important as well, because there is so much noise now, and you can go onto TikTok and Instagram and you could be on there for hours looking at all content, and you could come away with loads of ideas and hundreds of things you've seen that you could do, but it's what can you actually go and put into practice and make happen. And I think if we keep looking online, you'll get more and more ideas, and it's great, but at some point then you need to actually just start. So I think if you can just start with one post, start with one video, and no one's going to be that finished article. So you can't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 12.
So would you say then, Amy, you're better off to get something out there, even if it's not perfect, but just to get your message out there?
Yeah, definitely. And especially, if you're wanting to kind of maybe get more content out there, whether it's thought leadership style content on LinkedIn or, whatever platform it might be, you need to just start. Stephen Bartlett has a great saying, and I think it's so true. It's embarrassment is the cost of entry. And it can be very daunting putting yourself out there, but you have to get started. And he often talks about when he started Diary of a CEO, I think his first episode, he recorded it on just an Apple mic, was recording himself, I think on Zoom or something, and he had like a sock over the microphone to try and improve the sound. And now look at him, 10 years on. So everyone starts somewhere. So, your first post isn't going to be perfect, but you're never going to get to that 100 brilliant posts if you don't start on the first one.
Okay, okay, okay. And and you mentioned there, Amy, about you know, 1 or 2 posts, because I know, people, and even in, organizations that I'm involved in, people, go back and forth, do we post more? Do you post less? So, I mean, what's kind of a good balance, or is there a good balance?
I always say post as often as you can do so, like consistently. So, like if
Yeah.
you can consistently get out 2 or 3 posts a week, do that. If you can do more, brilliant. But what I often see happen is they'll get the buzz and they'll go off and they'll go mad and create loads of content, and all of a sudden they'll post flat out for a week and then they vanish again and they run out of steam. So if you can't maintain it, I wouldn't, don't put pressure on yourself. So like if you can do 2 posts a week and you can do that every week, brilliant. And I think once you start it and then you start to, build up that consistency piece, then you can actually start to go, okay, might actually increase it now next week because I have capacity, and you'd be more inclined to put more time into it. So start small and build it up. But if it's something that you want to do more from a career point of view, you do need to invest into it. So it's all again about what you want to get out of it. But if it's for your business and it's to get your services and your products out there, you do need to invest time into it.
Okay. So then what I'm hearing then, Amy, consistency is really the number one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And having a strong presence, and you don't need to necessarily be consistent in posts all the time. If it's on Instagram, you could be just consistent on stories, and you have good quality content maybe on your Instagram feed, but maybe stories, that's where your most engaged audience lives. So you develop that. But if you want to reach new audiences, yes, you do need to be getting posts and reels out there. So every platform is slightly different as well. It's probably easier to get a larger reach on TikTok, but again, then you have to be mindful of where does your audience live. So that's really important. For some businesses, it will be LinkedIn. For other businesses, it will be Instagram. And we have clients that still have huge success on Facebook. So it really, really depends on that specific business.
Yeah, I think too, and yes, the specific business, and I suppose then the age demographic too,
Yeah.
because I think we find that older, are more older people. I think they're more comfortable with Facebook rather than the TikToks and the Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Amy, you mentioned a little bit about the noise. There's so much noise. So I guess, how do you know, drown out the noise from a business? But then you, as a woman, social media can be is not very forgiving.
No, and it's a busy space, and like I
Mhm.
find there's times you can go on to your phone and you can go and you go onto one of the apps and you start scrolling, and sometimes it just drains you and you can just feel mentally
Mm,
drained after being on it. So I think if you're consuming content, it's so important that you kind of curate your social media as much as you can. So like mute accounts that don't inspire you, and follow accounts that do lift you up and that do encourage you and motivate you, because the last thing you want to do is open up your phone and then you start seeing content that just, it's not going to uplift you. And a lot of people, we all are guilty of it. We reach for our phone first thing in the morning and
mm,
good or bad, but if at least if it's a space where you're going to get some positive or uplifting or motivational content, that's not so bad. So if you're going to be on social media, make sure you're consuming content you actually want to be consuming. I think that's really important. Um, but yeah, it can be a very, I suppose, noisy space. And, with AI now, and there's just so much content on there and the noise is getting louder. So, if you want to stand out from that, it's really about you. Like AI can replicate almost anything, but it can't, replicate your voice and your lived experiences. So that's really, really important. And that's what will set you apart. Any of us could go on to ChatGPT now and ask them, create me a post on, whatever, pick a topic. And it will give you out something that, it will read well and it will look good. But I think people are starting to see when content is AI generated, and there's the few obvious giveaways like the M dashes, and it can create a lot of filler words and captions where they're not necessary. And I can spot kind of those AI generated captions now, and I think a lot of people are can see them as well. So you need to have authenticity in your content as well, and your voice needs to be in there. So yes, use AI maybe to help you in developing content or getting ideas, but don't lose your voice in it. I think that's really important. And I think that's where when someone can pick up the camera and actually just talk and do video, that's so much more powerful than, a very lengthy caption. Because we want to get to know that face behind the business. People want to see people, and I see it all the time with my clients, like, even if it's say a restaurant, for example, we can have lots of incredible food content. And it's funny, you introduce some team posts then and they see the faces, like whether it's the chefs or something, and that content will far outperform maybe, more of a sales based post. So people really do buy from people, and we want to see faces. We're all craving that human connection.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We always say people do business with
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy, with AI, we're all talking about AI. No matter what industry you're in, we're all going to be impacted, and we are impacted with AI. So, how do you see, marketing being impacted, in the next couple of years?
Yeah, like we're seeing it already. Like,
Mm,
that I think AI generated content is very much going to come to the fore. There'll be AI creators, like, and that's all just happening kind of now. So I don't even know how far it could go in the future. But the noise is going to get a lot
mm,
louder, and I think that's where we've kind of at a, I suppose, a crossroads now where like you do really need to start to develop a personal brand. I think that's really important because that's all that's going to set you apart.
right.
And even like now when you see all the deep fake videos, and like it is kind of, it's scary in terms of what can happen and what's going to happen over the coming years, I think. So I think more than ever, people are going to crave that real, authentic content. And, it's not always, it's about sharing your story and, not just the wins, but the challenges.
Yeah.
And, the highs and the lows, and that's real, and that's what people want to see. So that kind of overly polished content, I think people are moving away from it. Even like the kind of lifestyle influencers, people are kind of moving away from that as well. We want to follow real people,
Yeah.
and real lives as well.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Because I mean, we all know
No, and I
there
think
are
like, the
there
more
are
we can
ups
all
and downs.
share, yeah, the more we
Mm.
can all share about our journeys and the challenges we face,
Yeah.
like the better.
Yeah. Agreed. Amy, one other thing that's really close to your heart, and this is how we met, is Network Ireland.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and
I guess, talk to us, how you got involved and then you all the way right up to being the president.
yeah, so Network Ireland, we're a women in business organisation. Network Ireland was established in 1983, so coming into its 43rd year now, up and running. We have 17 branches across Ireland and over 1,400 members, and it's really there to support the personal and professional development of women in business. And the membership is made up of, from uh, business owners, through to employees. We've corporate members, so it's a very broad, diverse network of women. But I joined back in 2017. It was February 2017, and funnily, it was actually my mother had seen an ad in the local newspaper for this women in business organization that was setting up, and she just showed it to me and said, "Oh, would you maybe like go along to that and see what it's about?" And of course, I went along and wanted to get involved straight away and join the committee, and that was in the Kilkenny branch, which was just setting up at the time. So I got involved straight away on a committee level. I was just eager to help and see what I could do and learn. And I was helping to organize events, I was doing the social media, and I just loved it and met so many incredible women. And, we had monthly events. So I was learning so much. And at that time, I was kind of in that in between phase and trying lots of different things career wise. So it was actually brilliant just to get exposed to so many different women. Um, the following year, then I'd started that job, my digital marketing role, and that was in a company in Waterford. So we actually encouraged the company to take out a corporate membership and join the Waterford branch. And I was in the Waterford branch then when I was working there, ended up being elected vice president of Waterford. And then the following year, that was 2020, I was the Waterford branch president. So like I'm from Kilkenny, but Waterford very much became like a second home for me. And I'm so grateful to the Waterford branch and all the incredible women there for the support that they shown me. So I loved it. And again, when I was branch president of the Waterford branch, I was getting involved on the national team as well. With the national organisation, and I was again helping out with the social media. So I was getting exposed to the national organisation and getting to know more and more women. And in 2023, then the opportunity came up, and I put myself forward for vice president designate, and I got elected on the day at the AGM. So that's just 2 years ago now, just over 2 years ago, and was due then to be president in 2025. So last year I was honoured to serve as national president of Network Ireland. And I was actually the youngest national president of the organisation. So that was a massive honour. And, it will forever, I'd say, be the greatest honour of my professional career to have had the opportunity to lead that organisation, because it gave me so much over the years, and it was just amazing to have the opportunity to give something back.
And then, you said professionally, but also personally, to talk about that a little bit, what really.
Yeah, like the personal impact is huge. Like you grow and develop so much as a woman, as a business owner, as a leader as well. So, it's a voluntary role, and we all balance the roles in Network Ireland alongside business and family life and personal lives. So it's challenging. It's not an easy role. It was a very, very busy 12 months trying to balance it all. But yeah, so personally, it does challenge you. But I just learned so much from it, and you make such incredible friendships as well. That will last a lifetime. So it's the people again that you meet along the way.
Right. And I know you had a few highlights that you're really proud of during your presidency. Maybe we'll start with the International Women's Day.
Yeah, so during the year, so we had two national events every year, and the first one was International Women's Day, and we hosted last year the first ever All Ireland International Women's Day. So it was amazing to bring together women and allies from both north and south of the border. For the last couple of years, Network Ireland, we've been working in partnership with Women in Business Northern Ireland, and that collaboration has evolved over the years. And Emma Early Murphy from Network Ireland, she's done huge work in bringing that collaboration to life. So it was really building on that work that had already been done. And again, I suppose the opportunity came to be able to host this first ever All Ireland, and just so grateful to our partners who came on board for that. AIB, who are our official partner. Then we had Intertrade Ireland, Enterprise Ireland, and Women in Business Northern Ireland. So, that's what made it happen. Those partnerships and collaborations is what brought that to life. But it was an incredible day on March 8th last year. So it was on International Women's Day, and we were in Croke Park. So I always wanted to have it in Croke Park. That was my dream, to be able to host an event there. And it was just phenomenal, like beyond what I could have ever dreamt it to be.
And why Croke Park? Because that wouldn't be my first. That wouldn't where my mind would go for International Women's Day. I'd probably be thinking some fancy hotel and a fancy conference room.
Yeah, I suppose, look, I'm a Kilkenny woman, so I
Oh,
have a lot of fond memories of Croke Park growing up over the years. But it's just such a special place, and it's actually hard to put it into words. Even when
yeah,
you're there on an empty day, there's just such a magic and like energy in the place. And I think it's just the history of the space. It's kind of hard to explain it. But I was even chatting to a member earlier today, and she straight away went back to International Women's Day last year, and that it was just her favorite event she's ever been at. And again, she was like, just Crow Park, like the energy in the space, because we had the whole venue essentially to ourselves. And, for guests to be able to go down steps on the stand, and we got pictures that morning on the pitch side,
mm,
and it was just amazing. And I remember being pitch side and getting photos taken, and I seen my family and my husband and his parents coming through the tunnel and walking out, and it was just a really surreal moment. But it was an incredible venue, and again, just a really iconic space to be able to hold that event. And, it's not that long ago that women
right.
couldn't play sport and play
Mm,
sport in Crow Park. So, like the changes that Crow Park has even seen over the years, and how incredible of a venue it is. I think like the ladies Gaelic football All Ireland is one of the highest viewed sports in Europe, like highest viewed sport female sporting events in Europe. So like there's been so much work done on the women's GA and or women's camogie and football and everything over the years. So it's a very iconic space, and yeah, it was amazing to be able to bring that event to life there. And we did make history that day. It was the first ever All Ireland International Women's Day event to be hosted by Network Ireland, so it was a huge, really important moment, and amazing to bring women together again, as I said, from north and south, and our male allies, of course, in the room as
yeah,
well on the day.
yeah. Yeah, and I think bringing women together from both north and south, that that there are no barriers, no matter where you are, that we're all going through the same challenges.
Exactly, and no difference, the
Right.
Atlantic between us. We are all facing the same challenges, and we can all help and learn from one another. So, like collaboration is so important.
Yeah. So maybe talk a little bit, Amy, because you did make a trip to Boston during your tenure. So
I did, and thank you
yeah,
so much for having me. That was definitely one of the highlights of the
yeah,
year, and was just so grateful to have the opportunity to come and join you at the business breakfast in October. Yeah, it was an incredible morning. It was amazing to go to Boston for the couple of days. I just love it as a city. I'd been once before, so it was amazing to get back and just to walk around Boston again, and get to experience it again. I just love it as a city. It's just beautiful. So yeah, it was fantastic to be able to join the business breakfast, and it was actually the first time that the Network Ireland chains, the presidential chains, had been out of the country. So again, to kind of have that I suppose, global connection and to be able to represent Network Ireland on a global stage was just, again, a huge honour for me. And as I said, just developing those the cross, transatlantic connections between Network Ireland and Manaw was fantastic.
Oh no, and we were absolutely thrilled to have you. And oh yeah, one thing I do want to ask you. Lots of my American friends here were asking me about the chain of office because we don't have that here, and the significance of it.
Yeah, well, the chain it's older than me.
Mm.
So it was it was a lovely piece of jewelry to wear for the year, although it does
Mm.
cause a lot of wardrobe issues because you'd have a lovely outfit picked and then you put on the chain and all of a sudden it doesn't work and you have to go back to square one. So the chain, from my knowledge, it's been there
Mm.
from the setup of Network Ireland in 1983, and it's just, again, when you wear it and there's names of all the previous women
Yeah.
who've gone before you, you're standing on the shoulders of all these women.
Right.
And again, it's just such an honor to kind of be part of that history and that legacy and, to have made an impact. And, that was my goal going into the year. It was to make an impact, an impact for our members and just a lasting impact for the organization in the years to come. So everything I did was kind of rooted in that of like, what impact is this going to have? So yes, it's a piece of legacy and a piece of history.
Right, right. And I suppose, when you wear that too, Amy, um, you're making a commitment that you are in a position of leadership and that you care about the organization.
Yeah, and you're elected by the members, and you have a commitment then to serve them for the year. And I suppose we've our three kind of core pillars in Network Ireland are leading, supporting, and collaborating. So you're living by those values every day in the role. And yeah, it's just a huge honor. And it wasn't a role that I took lightly at all. And, even the decision to put myself forward, I really thought it out because you're thinking 2 years down the line and kind of where will I be at in terms of business and life, and can I make that commitment? Because it's a massive undertaking and time commitment. But I wanted to do it and I kind of felt it was like now or never. And, I never say never, but the time felt right to go for it. So yeah, it's an undertaking, but, just a huge pride and, it was amazing to have that opportunity.
Oh no, well we're glad that you did, and we're glad to have made the connection with Network Ireland. I suppose, Amy, how do you? I mean, you're out there so much with social media, and you had a very public role with Network Ireland. I mean, how do you take care of yourself and you know balance your personal life, and because you know when you put yourself out there, you can, I suppose, you are wide open. You can, I mean, you are very vulnerable, I suppose, at times. How do you kind of manage the two?
Yeah, like, there was challenges during the year, like there's lots
Mm.
of expectation and,
Mm.
you can be open for criticism as well. So it's not easy. And, and again, when you're bringing it back to, you have a full-time job and business as well, that kind of has to come first,
Yes.
and clients and everything. Like there's a lot pulling on you. Um, but yeah, like it's I suppose for me, like I probably learned it the hard way. I think towards the end of the year, I was starting to feel a bit burnt out. Like I was really exhausted, but everything that I did, it was worth it. And I suppose that's what kept me going.
Mm.
And it's not just all on you. I suppose it really was a team effort. Like it's such an incredible team around me and people who really rode in and helped, especially around the bigger and like the national events. And it's a team effort throughout the year. So while it's not just on you, you have that team support. But I suppose personally, then, I had to really be very mindful of my time and setting boundaries. And there was a phrase that I kept in my head all year. And one of my friends, Emma, she'd said this to me was, someone else's urgency is not or someone else's urgency is not your emergency.
Okay.
And it was good just to kind of put that boundary in place because your phone can literally be ringing round the clock and there's messages coming in. So you do have to be very strict in terms of your time. I never use the do not disturb button on my phone as much as I did last year. And, if I was sitting down to do work, do not disturb went on. And my husband would go mad at times because he couldn't ring me. But I would say, sorry, I was locked in and I had work I needed to get done and I just couldn't have any distractions. So you set boundaries, but then self care is really important and
Yeah.
just taking that time for yourself. And that's probably the first thing that I probably would let slip. I mightn't be making the time to get out for the walk or,
Mm.
just to go and see friends and do things. And that does catch up eventually as well. So you do need to make that time for yourself just to rest and sometimes just do nothing.
Yeah, and I suppose yes, and then as well, in your role, being an entrepreneur too. I mean, when you're working for yourself, it's very very different, than working for a big company because
Mm.
you've all the responsibilities. You have to make the money to pay the bills. So I suppose not to forget along the way to take care of yourself too.
Yeah, so so important. But I think, when you're working for yourself like that, you put that pressure's on. I don't know, you just seem to make time and
Mm.
I know that phrase like ask a busy person.
Yeah.
They'll get the job done. And I really do think that's true. Like when I suppose for me, and if I've made the commitment to do something, I will get it done. Whether that means working every weekend and, late nights, like you make it happen. But yeah, you can't, it's not forever, I suppose, and that's the thing. And I knew that, like, it's only 1 year and I'm just going to give it
Yeah.
120% for the year.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, it's a team effort.
Yeah.
It's a team effort as well. One thing, Amy, when we were chatting at the beginning about AOS consulting and marketing, I didn't talk about your workshops, and I know they're very sought after. So I actually want to hear about it as well myself.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
I do a lot of workshops.
Yeah.
Actually just had a call today and it was around a LinkedIn workshop, so that'll be coming up. So yeah, do kind of a mixture of workshops, kind of in-house for companies. So again, whether, if you have a team and like that could be LinkedIn and how can the
Mhm.
whole team, like your employees, everyone actually make the most of LinkedIn. That could be a topic. It could be more from a personal branding and from a founder perspective and really harnessing it. We do lots of like Instagram for business workshops, TikTok as well, starting into that now too. So yeah, I've done workshops literally as long as my business has been up and running. I've been doing social media for business workshops. So I love it and I love that educational side of it and just showing someone how to do it. Like it's amazing when you see it clicking for people or when they learn that new skill and you see them go and putting it into practice. I love that. So yeah, I've been doing workshops for like quite a few years. So we do a mixture of, the kind of group ones or one-to-ones, or, just webinars as well.
Okay, that's great. Wow, you do it all. But I do get, I from everything you've said, Amy, there's, I would say this common theme that you really do want to help people.
Mm. Yeah, I do. And like that's the part of the job that I
Yeah.
love. And it's it's helping people and, social media, like I've seen it how it can really impact businesses, like
Mm.
and how it can help. And it does get a bad rep at times and, it can be seen as something quite negative. But when you see the power of it from a small, especially for a small business in terms of what it can do for them, I that's what I love about it. So yeah, it's incredible what it can afford people and what it can create for businesses. So especially for smaller companies, it's an incredible tool.
Yeah. No, it really, really is, and it's, it is the way I suppose it. Well, it is. We are all on social media, and it's. I don't think it's going anywhere. Yeah.
No, no time soon.
No time soon, no time soon. So what's next? I mean, I hate that, I'm not going to ask that question, the 5-year plan. And I mean, I hate when I'm asked that question, but what are you thinking? What's next for
Yeah.
Amy?
Yeah, like I've a few different plans in terms of business, things that I want to get done this year. So, I've my goals set and everything for the year. I do want to expand the business a bit more there this year in 2026. And then personally, myself and my husband, we're building our house. Well, it's built. So we're almost there. So I'm kind of up to my eyes in interior planning and all
Mm.
that at the moment. So we're hoping to get moved in the next couple of months, which is really exciting. So yeah, there's lots to keep me busy. This year it's more focusing on that business development and working with the incredible clients that we have, and hopefully get to work with some amazing new clients as well.
Amy, thank you so much. This has been a fabulous conversation. I've really enjoyed it, and hope we'll see you back in Boston very soon.
Yes, that would be amazing. Thanks, Martina. Thanks for having me.